Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. I believe today is the 23rd of May, if my math is correct, Andrew.
Something like that, anyway. Yeah,
Something like that,
lately.
anyway.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
Before
The pools
Memorial
are
Day. How
open.
about we say that?
Yeah, yeah. The pools are opening up. We're in good shape. Uh,
Yes, yes. So today we're spending a little time with Jay. Um, Jay's one of our amazing agents. He's been with us now 2 years, right? 2 years now.
Right? 2 years.
Yeah, in addition to being a realtor, he does some work outside of that with one of the local schools, as well as he's a drone pilot, and he's got an incredible history with sports. But I thought maybe we start kick it off here with tell us a little bit about from 2 years ago to today. We've had a bunch of stuff hit us, right? We were in the pandemic, right? Then we had the interest rate shift. Then we had this big NAR DOJ lawsuit rules change that we've all been through, right? Across
Yep.
the country. You've kind of been through a lot in 24 months, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite the 24 months. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. And but I think, I think it helps. I think, a little bit of adversity, a little bit of challenge is what kind of forges us, right? I mean, steel sharpens steel. And I think right now it's like getting through one of the toughest parts in the market. If you can, be successful in this market, I think you can be successful in any market. So it's one of those opportunities that kind of presents itself as a challenge. But ultimately, yeah, it's been quite the challenging and interesting 24 months, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it has. And you've had a couple interesting ones too. You've had primarily, I think your focus, if I really understand you correctly, is really more of maybe the investor, whether it is short term, long term, or flipper, probably is more your wheelhouse, right? But you've got people that want to buy and sell and be a regular owner, whether it's condo or house and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, I would say, my business kind of spans the spectrum. The investor clients certainly are typically front and center, especially in these markets when it's a little bit tougher for folks to get the, interest rate they want or the house they want. And the rental market being where it is right now, it is a little bit easier to work with the investor clients and get deals done on that side. With that being said, though, I am working closely with first-time home buyers, and that's a group that I really do take pride in working with. Of course, we were all first-time home buyers at one point. Navigating this market as a first-time home buyer is particularly challenging. But there are opportunities out there. There are programs. There are things that I think first-time home buyers can leverage. And that audience is something that I'm shifting my focus to in addition to working with investors. But again, my business does span the spectrum. I've worked with the, luxury clients at the high end of the market. I've worked with, again, the first time home buyers and then the investors. Really anybody that's looking to, take a step forward in the real estate market within the Denver metro area. I'm looking to and willing to help. So yeah, that's pretty much the scope of my business. And yeah, I love working with, again, each one of these clients, they're very different. But I think working with each of them, you learn so much from the clients themselves and about the deals and particularly about the neighborhoods and things like that in Denver.
Yeah, well, and you kind of came to real estate like a lot of people do after having a transaction or two under your belt, but as a consumer, But you have a little bit of your take on it because you were actively acquiring like long-term rentals and looking at investment opportunities yourself. So, how did that impact your decision to get into real estate full time, or was that kind of always in the back of your head as something you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And really, the experience I had on my first transaction. So I started buying my first property in 2016. And even then it was a challenging market. Interest rates were going up a little bit then and inventory was obviously pretty low and trying to find an area within the Denver metro area that was going to be A, affordable, but B, also, appreciate and gain some value. So, I did a lot of research then and really started kind of like digging into, just the pieces of real estate that a lot of people don't look at, everything from the zoning to, site development plans about what's coming in the future. And really started realizing like, this is an interesting space. This is something that I could see myself doing even further. After buying my first property with an agent and going through that experience and then, realizing that, okay, like, you know, he breathes the same air I breathe, and it's something that I think, I can learn and develop over time and develop the relationships. And so yeah, that was a big piece of it. It was going into an initial transaction, and that was actually out by the airport. I think by the last assessment, which I think just came out last week, that's one of the fastest and highest appreciating areas in the Denver metro area, just because of all the growth out there. And really it was back in 2016, kind of seeing, the size of the airport and the vision about what they were doing out there and what was to come, that kind of inspired me more or less to start investing out in that direction. And then also to kind of start digging deeper into the real estate side of things. So after I did that, first transaction, it was really the opportunity to dig deeper into it, get a license, and then really start to not just help myself, but help my family and help friends and help the people in the community of Denver. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and it definitely did start, almost 10 years ago now. So it's been an exciting journey.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. And I mean, and I definitely, I've worked with you for 2 years now pretty closely, and you really care a lot about like your community that you grew up in, about, Denver as a whole, the community where your folks live now. So that's really great, and I mean, what do you think is, obviously it's tough to predict, right? But, what do you think's kind of why should people move to Denver now and in the future? Like, where is our community going? What kind of developments are you seeing out there that you think would be really benefit to people who are looking for a great place to live like we do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that really surprises me about Denver is its constant growth. And I mean, growth in a lot of ways, right? Growth with population, growth with actually inventory of properties, growth with, different cuisines and different demographics moving into the city. There's been lots of growth, and that growth obviously has come with a set of challenges. But at the same time, Denver is one of those places that I think has really learned how to start solving those problems as opposed to kind of just sweeping them under the rug.
Mhm.
And we've moved forward as a city, right? And we've addressed some of the major issues that are out there in terms of homelessness, or in terms of trying to get affordable housing. And these are all important, very important things in Denver. But I would say, like, overall, what makes this place so incredible, it really is the combination of the people, the outdoors, the cuisine, really the everything from the sports teams in the city to the amount of things that you can do outside and around the city. It's an incredible place, and I think, like, for a lot of people that grow up either on the coast or grow up like in the Midwest, I think Denver really represents this place where, like, anybody can come be successful. And in fact, one of my favorite books is by Philip Anschutz. It's called Out Where the West Begins. And it kind of talks about all the pioneers of the last, 200 years that have come out west to really, start their business and grow and become, really pioneers out here. And so that's something that I think is still important, and I think a place that creates opportunity for a lot of folks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would totally agree, because I moved there in May of '96.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so what, 24, 25 years ago, I guess. And it was still, Park Meadows had just been completed, right? So it was still, Hamden was really the end of this town.
Wow. Okay.
Right. I mean, that was it. You were kind of out of Denver by the time you hit Hamden. Now I look at it, it's just crazy, right? But I would agree. And it's interesting you bring up Anschutz, because I spent 12 years at the phone company. I was Legacy US West, then Quest, and he was very involved with Quest, with fiber, because fiber ran and still does run along the railroads.
Right.
They made their money, right? They're massive railroad family, right? And technology too. So I sold data center space when I was in sales. So
Wow.
data centers, if you look across the country, they're all along railroads.
Right.
I didn't understand that until I got into that business. Now it kind of makes sense, right? But you are right, and there's a lot of those locals that are just generations in Denver and things. One thing I took away from a meeting one time, like a presentation years ago, and I was really young, was win the customer, not the argument.
Mm.
Right. And I've always remembered that. And a lot of times, sometimes that's where the statement, you've heard me say it, sometimes when you're right, you're wrong. Right. And so I've always remembered that, and I would agree. I felt that way in '96 when I kind of first time I'd ever been to Colorado, and first time I'd ever been there. I moved by myself. I was young, I was like 22 or something, 23. So it was a great time, absolutely a great time. So, you're a native to Denver.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up initially in Denver, then moved out to like Aurora, and then moved out to Centennial.
Okay,
So that's where my parents are today, in the Centennial area. Went to Grandview High School. After that went off to Eastern Washington University. So yeah, it was growing up in the Denver area. For me, it was so different. I think like back then, I didn't really know a lot about the neighborhoods. I didn't know a lot about the history. I didn't know a lot about obviously the hot spots and things like that. But yeah, being a native and really living here over the past 10 years after I've gotten back from Washington has been an incredible experience, and just really seeing the city grow and develop. And ultimately the locals that I've known for a long time, some of them are still here, some of them have left. But again, there's people moving in, and it keeps the city, continuing to build and develop. So
right.
yeah.
Well, I think there's like the cities you choose versus the cities you grew up in, and yours happens to be the same, but I'll kind of echo what you said, man. Like I grew up in Portland, Oregon, which is like a great city, a ton of fun. But I mean, I moved out when I was 18, man. I went to college and I moved here when I was 22. So like if you ask me the hot spots in Portland, where I would say the Taco Bell parking lot, the Milwaukee Promenade, right? So like I didn't, I don't really know. But yeah, and I think a lot of people like me and like Michael have made Denver our home because of, people give the transplants a lot of crap, but the locals have always been super welcoming to me, man. Like I've never had an issue. So yeah, it's been a really great place to make a home for sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up Eastern Washington, because I think I'd like to kind of shift a little bit and talk about your college background, and then tell a little bit about that, and maybe some people that either listen to this on a podcast or watched this 2 years ago. It's been a while since we've had you on, right? So maybe kind of talk a little bit about your college experience and your background and how that translates today to what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I had the opportunity to be a student athlete in college, and get a scholarship to go and play football. And, that was such an incredible opportunity to be recruited and to take, scouting trips, and to, get to meet a lot of these coaches and see a lot of these different universities. Ultimately, I ended up at Eastern Washington University, right outside of Spokane, Washington. A very interesting place, to end up at 18. Again, I could have followed my brother. He was playing in the same conference at University of Northern Colorado. So could have just went up to Greeley and been a Bear and tried to make it there. But I decided, what, let me forge my own path. Let me, kind of think about like the team. Let me think about, the opportunities that would present themselves by going up here. And ultimately, it was, one of the best decisions I ever made. I got to play right away, which was amazing. We made massive donations from Michael Roos to build the first like red turf field in the U.S. So that drew a lot of like media attention, and just gave us a lot of excitement. And then at the same time, that was the same year that we ended up winning the FCS National Championship for Division One. So it was an incredible experience. I mean, going out there, being able to play, being able to make, game-winning plays. I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of defined my career, was not just making plays, but the ones that really mattered in the moment. And I think that, again, like that experience, a lot of that translates to even today, right? I mean, I think in terms of the real estate market and all of these things like that, I see, I saw this as the next opportunity, especially in Denver, even 10 years ago. And really it was about making the, jump and learning and gaining like the experience you need. And again, really being able to run plays in this market and be able to be successful in the really with the, competition and everything that exists within the real estate markets. Let's be honest, we're not competing against ourselves. And so, yeah, it was something that I thought translated very well. I actually, a lot of the, friends that I went to college with, ended up in real estate in some way, some in the construction management space, some as, commercial real estate brokers, some as residential real estate brokers. And I think, it's one of those things that athletes, I think, gravitate to because it is competitive. It's not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily linear. It requires a lot of thinking on your feet. It requires a lot of expertise. It requires a lot of constant learning. And I think those are things that, student athletes have learned to really do very well. And so, yeah, that's kind of my experience and how it translates from those college days till now. And then, yeah, really, I was actually an experience that, really shaped me was in college. And it was the opportunity of actually one of my late friends, Chandler Gayton, took me out to Seattle, and his mom is one of the top real estate brokers out in Seattle. And I just like for the first time realized the gravity of what one person could do, not just for their family, but really for the city, right? For the clients they're working with, high-end clientele, the type of properties in the city, and really what it took to get there, right? And that really inspired me, and I think it inspired a lot of us that took that trip out to Seattle, and met with Chandler's family and things like that, and it really inspired me long term about the vision of what I want to do for my own city. So it was an incredible experience, and from the college part of it, going to school, having to make sure you get good grades, because again, you don't get to play on the field unless you do the work in the classroom. And I think that's another point I want to make, to anybody listening out there that potentially is getting into college sports or anything, is you got to do that first. And it's not all about the money. It's not all about the playing time, but it really is about, what you learn there and what you gain out of that, and what you get out of that from the university and for the long term. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm thankful for, Eastern Washington University to this day. And and it's obviously shaped, me to join the real estate market and be as competitive as I can be in this space as well.
Right, that's amazing. It's so a couple things. So, right, first of all, you couldn't have a better coach and mentor in Mr. Wolf, because when it comes to sports, I don't care what sport it is, he rattles a stat out of his brain so fast. I try to trick him up sometimes, and I can't. So you got a great leader mentor that is your vision, being a wrestler as well as a coach and whatnot. Too. It's interesting. Before you jumped on the call today, Andrew and I were just talking about the local high school here in Missouri has produced, I think, 4 NFL players,
Wow.
but a number of them college went to Mizzou, obviously. But there are a number of, in Denver, believe it or not, ex-NFL players that are in real estate. We had worked with a couple of them when we were at another brokerage before we went out on our own. But it's interesting to hear you say that, because as you're talking, I'm hearing the competition, right? I'm hearing the discipline, the strategy, and then fine tuning your market, right? Because you're right. There's going to be that group that's just high end. That's all they do. They do nothing else. Then you get the middle tier. Then you get the investor market or whatever, right? But I think the bigger picture is, and Andrew can probably speak to this better than I can, is to get to Eastern Washington on a scholarship, you didn't just wake up one day and just all of a sudden the phone rang. You had to do a bunch of little things as probably a young man, right, growing up through school, and then you got, recruited or whatever. But Andrew talks about that a lot of times in leadership and coaching. So I'd be interested to hear your take on that, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like Jay's correct. I think that, I tried my hand at a few different jobs, and I was, not bad at them by any means, but I just didn't find the passion, the drive, if I was gonna like sit in an office and do the same, 5 things every single day for 8 hours a day and take a paycheck home. It just wasn't for me. And so when I found real estate, it very much leaned into like that competitive aspect and really that very process driven aspect that I enjoy, right? Where like I know that if I do the work every single day, when I get a chance to perform, when I'm out with clients on property, I'm going to be able to, at a much higher rate, secure that listing, help that buyer get to a good situation. But it really comes from all the work that you do, during the week, Monday through Friday morning. Some people aren't showing property. You should be, educating yourself in the market, looking at investment plots and seeing what's getting developed in certain areas. seeing what's new in the market, looking for just different arbitrage opportunities for your clients out there that you can then present when it's on game day, right? So I feel like that for me, like it really speaks to that difference, that variable experience every single day, and that very process driven approach that leads to success, right? Like versus like if I was working as like I don't know a customer service person, like yeah, they have back end processes in place, but it's mostly like you're answering the same 30 questions the same way every day for the rest of your life, Versus, all of us here can attest, we've got, a few decades of real estate experience between three of us here. It's different every day, man. And every transaction has its nuances. Like there's like you hit the same spots, but you get there from a lot of different directions, So I think that really spoke to me. And I think that's, kind of echo what Jay's saying there for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, I think the biggest thing that take away there is the process piece, and I think Nick Saban talks about this a lot as a coach, and a lot of players today kind of like have taken the other route where they're more focused on the prize than the process,
Mhm.
and really I think like this is what kind of defines real estate is like how focused can you be on the process? How focused can you be on the contracts? How focused can you be on the transaction? How focused can you be on the clients? Versus just how focused are you on the commission, right? And I think that's the same in sports. And I think, nowadays with obviously name, image, likeness, and the amount of money going in college sports, it's obviously like, shrouded a lot of people's vision about what's important. And I think ultimately it comes back to that process over prize, like thinking about how every day you can become better and gain additional experience and be able to leverage that. And again, that gets you the championships. That gets you the goals that you get you to reach the goals that you want to reach. Versus again, just looking at the dollar signs. Yeah.
And that's especially today, that's such an important mindset to have, right? Because real estate today, it's depending on who you ask, you're gonna have a very different response on their level of respect and trust and understanding of who we are and what we do, right? And a lot of that stems from people having that very money commission driven approach to everything where they don't view their clients as people they need to serve or people they need to help. They view them as an ATM that they're owed some sort of compensation for existing near them and being a realtor. And I think that's something that we have to own up to as an industry. And I think our job is still very important. Like you said, about your friend's mom, like your experience with the person who helps you buy your home if you use an agent dramatically impacts your whole experience living that area, right? Like if they don't align you with an area that's going to fit your lifestyle and you're having to like travel to go to do the things that you want to do, if they don't put you in an area that that's going to like if your goal is to sell it in 5 years and they put you in an area that's not going to appreciate at a rate that's going to make money in 5 years, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? And some of that is going to be not a direct fault of the agent thinking of like commission over experience necessarily, but not having that process, right? Like, like we talked about it a lot. Like my conversation is pretty similar to start with everybody. I'm like, hey, when I'm talking to buyers, I want to say, hey, I'm going to hear how many bedrooms, and I want to hear about, how many bathrooms, the type of kitchen you want. We're going to get to all that stuff. But what I want to know today, first question is what is there an area you want to live in, or what is the lifestyle that you want to live once you are in your new home? Because that's going to dramatically impact where you are. Like if you want to have nightlife and you want to have kind of be able to walk to bars and restaurants, I can find you that 5 bedroom, 4 bathroom house in Brighton, but you're probably not going to have a great experience. And conversely, if you want to have space and you want to have, a place to stretch out and not see your neighbors, I also don't want to put you in downtown Denver, regardless of the price point, right? So a home the value that you pay for something doesn't necessarily align with the value that it means to you. So you have to make sure you're finding like the right Venn diagram of that client's experience, which I think is kind of speaks to what you're saying, like client focused, process driven, the money takes care of itself, man. Like,
Yeah, I totally agree. So you kind of developed a little bit in some technology, right? In the last 24 months. You've learned a lot about some AI stuff, a website, your drone work. Talk to us a little bit about that. That's been kind of new for you, right?
Yeah, well, so I've had my drone license since 2018. So it's one of those businesses that's developed quite considerably over time. Back in 2018, the technology was very nascent. It was, new, and the regulations were kind of all over the place. There was a lot you couldn't do. In 2025, though, it's becoming amazing. As a commercially licensed FAA drone pilot, the rules today are a lot clearer. And that's created a lot of opportunities. And so one of those opportunities has been to really go B2B, right? And business to business, start serving other agents and helping other agents with their marketing and their real estate related videos. And I think for me, that's been an area where it really complements what I'm doing, on the real estate side, and helps build and develop those marketing skills. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. I love flying drones. It's something that, again, like being outside and being in Colorado and being in, having 300 plus days of sunshine, like it just, it gets me outside and it gets me, excited about, just the city and all the places that I'm at, and really capturing that in a way that, is very unique from a very different vantage point. So yeah, the drone business has been something that has grown, in kind of collaboration with that has been the digital side of things as well. So that's everything from website creation to map development. I've been really heavy in, now actually using programming languages to develop interactive and custom maps. And I think this is an area too, as things do become more digital and as listings become more digital, just giving people additional ways to get that situational awareness and understanding about a property in the area. So using technology like that, using technology like Matterport, really developing these kind of other business lines that help support really telling the story around a property. And so that's been, kind of my main focus for the past couple years. And certainly, the drone business has helped that. And I've kind of incorporated it all into one now. And so that's where Mile High AI comes along. That's kind of, again, my drone and digital division, focused on really creating the marketing for properties out there. So that's been something I'm really excited about and continue to build on every day, alongside my real estate business. And ultimately it's fun. Like I love to do it just as much as I love doing real estate. It's enjoyable. It gets me outside, and it gets me to places in the city that I don't think I'd ever get to see otherwise.
Nice, man. Well, yeah. So I mean, if we take a step back from the business side of things, what do you like to do like outside of real estate and drone? You have a lot of hobbies like me, So what
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
the ones that don't directly connect with your business? What do you like to do outside of that?
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm still a millennial. I love to play video games. I love to, get outside and on the scooters. That's a big thing I've been doing lately. These high-powered electric scooters. Don't worry, I got my helmet on. Just having fun around the city, and going to different neighborhoods and things like that, and checking things out again, like on the ground and instead of in a car. Really just that like adventure exploratory type stuff, and getting to see places in the city that, again, you wouldn't otherwise get to see. Again, I like to walk. I go to the parks. I'm super close to Washington Park, so I'm there at least like once or twice a week, just walking around, waving to people, saying hello. Going to like the farmers markets, super close to Pearl Street, so like the Pearl Street Farmers Market every week is a great place to, again, just hang out, and it's almost like a street festival down there. So I love just kind of like going to the different neighborhoods and different things in the cities, food trucks, different restaurants. I love food, so again, I could eat all day, and go to different restaurants every day. So that's to me like how I kind of spend time outside of real estate, is really just like even exploring the city even more, and little parts of it, and definitely the neighborhoods, and then just being able to experience that with different people, family and friends. So yeah,
Nice.
it's been amazing.
Do you have like a old classic staple restaurant recommendation and then like a new hotness recommendation for the people at home?
You know,
New as of May 23rd,
yeah, yeah.
2025
I
anyway.
mean, Honestly, like I think like, you know, if you go high end or want to go high end, I think one of the best restaurant is Garden Grace. I mean, it's a great steakhouse, and
Yeah.
they've got, I mean, the filet mignon flight is amazing. So, you know, go and try it out, see what you like. Troy Gard is obviously a Denver restaurateur, and he's, you know, everywhere with different concepts. And that's one that I really appreciate. La Loma is another one. I would say that's kind of an old school one. If you are in the mood for Mexican food in downtown, La Loma is like, I think one of the best, like kind of like Mexican food restaurants down there. And then again, I'll just like throw out like one of the other ones that's super close to here, but it's L&L barbecue. I actually like ate it yesterday. So it's like, it's just like this like Hawaiian barbecue, kind of that same concept with like, you know, meat, rice, and like the pasta salad. And it's just super good. Like it's one of those comfort foods that I don't think you can ever go wrong with. And then there's Peter's too. I can't end this interview without saying Peter's.
On
Off of
Colfax there.
Yeah, Peter's Asian food. It's off of 12th there. He actually just gave it to his employees, so it's employee owned now. It's one of the best like Chinese food places, and honestly, if you just go in there, Peter will probably still be there, and it's just always great like talking to somebody who's again like so deep in the restaurant scene in the city, and you know also so you know friendly with all the guests and customers. So great place.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it's, you know, you live right in my wife's like target little circle right there. She loves
Oh, okay, yeah.
circle because we were over on the east side of I-25 there behind the office back in Virginia Village for 12 years.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, they you know, it's funny you talk that because we have all these debates all the time. But you know, we love like you know, Jack's obviously is always good. We love Kona. You know, old school sushi train. You know, there on Hamden, love that. You know, I still argue that J. Alexander has the best hamburger in Denver, but Andrew disagrees with me.
I have to check both because I haven't had either of those two places that you guys have mentioned on the burger spots.
And how come you didn't bring up Casa Bonita?
I mean, is Casa Bonita really good food, or is it just like good entertainment?
Yeah, pretty good. It's an experience, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out Jim's, man. It's like $6 for a double cheeseburger. It's pretty great.
We'll go next. We're there in June, Andrew. We'll do both. I'll make you a deal. We'll do both.
That's a good deal.
Well, Jay, man, it's always fun talking with you. You know, you have so much knowledge, you know, and you know, one-on-one with you is very interactive, which I love, and I think your clients would probably agree. You know, you kind of peel back the layers of the onion a little bit, and I think you draw from being a local and a native to having experience of going away and coming back. You know, and you've got a couple of businesses that you're dangling in, you know, which is good, you know, which is good for you. So, anything you want to leave us with today, come before you wrap it up?
No, I think that's it for me. This is obviously an amazing opportunity. I appreciate the time and appreciate both of your guys' candor, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to use your steel sharpened steel when we do your YouTube post.
I like that. All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. Boom.
All right. Thanks, everyone.